New this morning, the gun reform battle that's brewing inside Tennessee's state capitol in the wake of last week's tragic elementary school shooting in Nashville that left 3 adults and 3 children dead. Why state GOP lawmakers are trying to expel a group of Democrats from the House as protests there heat up.
Also this morning, we've got the latest on the investigations into former President Donald Trump, with his former Vice President Mike Pence deciding not to appeal a federal order to testify in the special counsel's investigation. But the former president could still try to block his testimony. We'll explain.
Plus, utter devastation across the South and Midwest this morning, and Mother Nature is not letting up. One Missouri county left reeling in the aftermath of a deadly tornado that's killed at least 5 people. We're on the ground there with stories of heartbreak and survival as this massive storm system moves east.
Good Thursday morning. I'm Stephen Romo.
And I'm Zinklea Samwa. Joe and Savannah are on assignment. We have a lot to get to this morning.
Yeah, we want to start with the weather and yet another threat of storms coming today, specifically in the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast.
So joining us now to break it all down is meteorologist Michelle Grossman. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning to you both. Yeah, we have another day of storms. We're not expecting widespread tornadic activity like we saw the past day and a half or even the last weekend, but we're still looking at showers and storms. Some could be on the strong side and really heavy rainfall. That's going to be one of the takeaways from this weather event as we head towards the next couple of days. We're looking at downpours. We're looking at rainfall rates of 2 to 3 inches per hour. So we do have flood alerts, 7 million people impacted in the South. So Texas and Louisiana, parts of Tennessee is sort of the area that we're looking at. Where you see the green, that is a flood watch. We have some red boxes too. That's indicating where we have flash flood warnings. That means flooding is happening now or it's imminent, and we're going to see them popping in and out throughout the day because we will see these this rain kind of going over the same areas the next couple of days. This is what radar looks like right now. Clear to see where that cold front is, stretching from the northeast all the way down to portions of the south. We're looking at really heavy rainfall. We've been watching this for hours, and that heavy rain has been falling. So where you see the reds, the yellows, the oranges, that's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling. Still seeing some lightning. That's an indication of that these storms are still really electric. They have a lot of energy. It's pulling that moisture off the Gulf, and it's using that energy. And we could see some strong to severe storms in the mid-Atlantic as we head through this afternoon into the evening hours. But as far as the flooding goes, we could see that flooding alert, as I mentioned before, the flood watch. And we do have a flash flood risk as well. That's because we're looking at multiple rounds of storms, high rainfall rates, especially where you see this darker blue, Jackson, Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, into Texas. We're looking at Victoria, Austin, San Antonio, also Corpus Christi. We could see some flash flooding today, and that's going to continue over the next couple of days because this cold front is sinking to the south, and it's sort of going to park itself over this area, and we're going to see rounds of rain over the next 3 days. We could see a lot of rain, stacking up to 6 inches in some spots. Again, the brighter colors, the oranges and reds, is where we're expecting the highest amounts of rain. So throughout Texas into Louisiana, Mississippi, but even portions of the Southeast, the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Raleigh into Columbia, you could see some heavy rain over the next couple of days. So as far as our severe threat goes, we're going to get the daytime heating going. We have some sunshine outside, a little bit of fog in parts of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. That is lifting. We're getting a little sun. That's going to help aid some of the storms this afternoon into the evening hours. Notice the tornado threat is low. It's not 0, but it's low. That's good news. We're not expecting a widespread outbreak or even strong storms, but we're expecting stronger thunderstorms. So winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. Could see some isolated hail, an inch or larger. Where you see the yellow, that is your slight risk. That's the likeliest spot of seeing some stronger storms. So Salisbury, Maryland into Richmond, Virginia, also Roanoke. But anywhere where you see the green too, we can see some stronger storms. So just prepare yourself as you head out this afternoon into the evening hours. This is the setup. That long stretching cold front we've been dealing with for days is moving slowly to the east. It's moving slowly to the south as well. So showers and storms along that front throughout today, soaking rain for areas near the western Gulf, and that's why we're concerned for some flooding. Then by tomorrow, we're looking at that front stalling. It's sort of going to park itself, and it's going to bring more rain to the southeast. That's going to increase the flood risk for eastern Texas, also Louisiana, where we could see up to 6 inches of rain. And then as we go throughout Saturday, the wet weather continues in the southeast. This is the beginning of the weekend, so that's not great news there. And we're looking at localized flooding possible. That includes portions of the Carolinas. Notice heavy rain over the Carolinas as well. So your overall picture for today, we have that cold front. That's the main focus for our weather events today. Out ahead of the front, really warm. We're going to reach 80 degrees in New York City, 80 in Philly, also D.C., record highs in the southeast. Back behind this front, we're looking at temperatures really chilly, so feeling like winter in the northern plains. It's also cool in the central plains, but the good news is we're going to be quieter there, also portions of the upper Midwest. Notice that 85 in April in D.C. And as we look towards that cooler air, we're looking at Minneapolis by tomorrow, 50 degrees, a little bit warmer than it is today, 55 in Chicago, and 60 in Cincinnati. Back to you both.
Michelle, thanks so much.
Well, today's threats comes after a lot of trouble in the weather yesterday, including a deadly tornado that swept through Missouri. At least 5 people were killed there. Several others were left hurt. It also left behind widespread destruction. A large tornado also caused serious damage to Louisville, Kentucky yesterday. The National Weather Service says it's surveying to figure out if a second tornado also touched down there. And in Illinois, a strong storm there caused damage as well. Several homes were leveled, but thankfully no serious injuries were reported. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has more of the latest round of severe weather.
Hey guys, good morning from Glen Allen, Missouri. The devastation in this rural community, absolutely astounding. And case in point, you can see we're standing in the middle of what we're told was the Glen Allen fire station. And now it's basically just a big concrete slab with a bunch of debris kind of scattered all over it. You can see a ladder that firefighters apparently used. You can see firefighters' uniforms here in the background. 5 people in this small rural community a couple hours south of St. Louis killed by this EF2 tornado that scientists now say roared through early yesterday morning with winds topping 100 miles per hour. 5 more injured, close to 90 homes destroyed. That tornado, one of close to a dozen that scientists now say touched down across Illinois, Missouri, and Indiana yesterday. That outbreak being just the latest outbreak to slam portions of the Midwest and South over the last few weeks, leaving a death count at this point overall of dozens. Close to 480 tornado reports now reported across 25 states this year to date. That is twice, for reference, the average for this time of year. And on top of that, we have 61 tornado-related deaths. The average for an entire year is 71. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
So much devastation. Maggie, thank you.
Turning now to the latest on the special counsel investigation into former President Trump's alleged attempt to overturn the 2020 election.
According to one of former Vice President Mike Pence's advisors, Pence will not appeal a federal judge's order to comply with a subpoena, paving the way for him to testify in front of that grand jury.
For more, we're joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. Danny, good morning. So it was just last week that Pence was ordered to comply with the subpoena. Pence has already talked about and actually condemned Trump's actions on January 6th. So what more does Pence have to offer to the special counsel that they have not already heard?
Wouldn't we like to know? And that's exactly what the special counsel would like to know. And it's possible that Pence had additional conversations with Trump that might reveal Trump's intent if the special counsel is thinking that he violated laws in relation to January 6th, whether that be inciting a riot, whatever the case may be. But in order to have anything really interesting on Trump, it's going to have to be something that we haven't heard already. And it seems that we've heard most of what Pence and Trump's communications were. I mean, this has been the subject of a lot of investigation. You had last summer, the January 6th committee put on a lot of evidence about all the communications, not just between higher-ups, but we heard plenty of testimony from people on staff, people below Pence, below chiefs of staff. So we've gotten a lot of information about the communications around January 6th. If there is something remaining between Pence and Trump, who knows? Only Pence knows for sure. But the special counsel has to cover all the bases, make sure there isn't anything else out there before a decision is made up or down.
And Danny, let's talk about some of former President Trump's rhetoric here. After his arraignment in New York, we know that he went back to Mar-a-Lago and spoke against the judge and Alvin Bragg. And also on social media yesterday, Trump was calling for Republicans in Congress to defund the FBI and defund the DOJ. How does this rhetoric, how does it affect his case?
This appears to demonstrate another of Trump's basic misunderstandings of how the government works, because defunding federal law enforcement wouldn't affect at all state prosecutors or state law enforcement. But guess who is under the rubric of federal law enforcement. The Secret Service, so I don't know if he's looking to defund Secret Service funding. That would be problematic for him. But there is an element of, to the extent the Manhattan DA's office receives federal funding at all, that is something that could be affected. But defunding specifically federal law enforcement, the FBI, the DEA, whatever the case may be, certainly wouldn't affect his prosecution in New York. It probably wouldn't affect his prosecution by the special counsel, should the special counsel decide to prosecute. I mean, after all, yes, the special counsel is part of the executive branch and part of DOJ, but the very definition of the special counsel investigation is that it's insulated. It's in a bubble. It's separate from rest of DOJ. So at least spiritually, that investigation goes on, irrespective of what goes on at Main Justice.
So, Danny, big picture, I know you said spiritually, what should we be on the lookout for as this Trump case moves forward?
Well, the arraignment, which we just had, is an interesting event, if for no other reason than it starts off the criminal case, but it's not very eventful substantively. And folks will may be surprised to find that after that arraignment, there's not a lot of exciting things that happen in a criminal case up till the pretrial motions, any hearings that happen before the trial, and jury selection and trial itself. It's actually pretty quiet between indictment, arraignment, and then the many, many months, sometimes years, between those two events and the actual trial.
All right. More to come on that. Danny, thanks so much. Well, new this morning, the Republican-led House is set to vote on the expulsion of 3 Democratic lawmakers in Tennessee. Representatives Gloria Johnson, Justin Jones, and Justin Pearson are all at risk of losing their seats. Now, this move comes after they took part in anti-gun protests last week, sparked by the deadly school shooting, of course, that happened in Nashville. Pearson had this to say about the vote.
Thousands of people came to the Capitol, mostly children and teenagers, who were asking for the representatives in the State House to do something. They came to the Capitol for us to do something, to pass gun sense legislation, to stop the epidemic of gun violence that took the lives of 6 people in Nashville. Because we went to the House floor to speak up and to hear the voices of our constituents and community who said, we need justice and we need action. The Republican Party has said, you need to be expelled.
It was such a showing from those young people there. Republican lawmakers say the 3 incited an erection and broke House floor rules after using bullhorns to speak when they had not been recognized. Democrats have responded, saying the vote is just anti-democratic. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson is in Nashville with more.
Thousands of students walking out of their classrooms to demand action and to demand change. And we are seeing this happen among students of all ages. And so certainly all eyes will be on the Tennessee state legislature today. And as for what comes next, if these 3 lawmakers are ultimately expelled, the governor will call for a special election, and those 3 lawmakers could run again. And if they choose to do so, they are expected to win. Back to you.
All right, Priscilla, thank you.
Also this morning, there are mounting tensions between the U.S. and China after the chairman of the bipartisan House Foreign Affairs Committee led a delegation of lawmakers to Taiwan. The visit comes on the heels of yesterday's meeting between Taiwan's president and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California. After their meeting, McCarthy vowed to continue supporting the island amid threats from China.
We must continue the arms sales to Taiwan and make sure such sales reach Taiwan on a very timely basis. Second, we must strengthen our economic cooperation, particularly with trade and technology. Third, we must continue to promote our shared values on the world stage.
NBC News Pentagon correspondent Courtney Cubie is in Taiwan, and we're also joined by Janice Mackey-Frayer, who's in Beijing. Good morning to you both. So, Courtney, I want to start with you. Tell us about this congressional delegation in Taiwan. What exactly is the purpose of the visit, and what's on the agenda?
So it's a bipartisan delegation, and their main message here is to show continued unity or solidarity with Taiwan. We've already heard from the head of that delegation, Congressman Mike McCall, a Republican from Texas, and as you mentioned, the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We've already heard that message from him. He met with the Taiwanese Vice President Lai earlier today, who had a similar message of how important it is for that the U.S. and Taiwan continue this partnership. Now, as you well know, the U.S. doesn't have official diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Taiwan, but there's been this unofficial relation that's gone on for decades now. This is exactly why China gets so angry, though, about these sorts of high-level delegation meetings, like the one with Congressman McCarthy in L.A. yesterday, and then this delegation here today, because they claim that it violates their sovereignty and violates the one China policy that continues to be the U.S. policy regarding China and Taiwan. Now, another main message, in addition to this show of unity, is foreign military sales, what Congressman McCall is in charge of on the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House. And that is this massive backlog. About $19 billion in weapons are backlog that should be sent here to Taiwan. Some of them won't arrive here for years. That's going to be one of his main messages as well, is how can they resolve that and get the defenses here to Taiwan that they're going to need.
And Janice, I want to bring you in because I know you're in Beijing. How's the country reacting to yesterday's meeting between Taiwan's president and Speaker McCarthy? Has there been any unusual activity in the Taiwan Strait since?
Well, in the days leading up to the meeting, Chinese officials were condemning the fact that it was going to happen, and they accused the U.S. of, quote, conniving to support Taiwan independence, which, as Courtney mentioned, would be a violation of the one China policy, which the U.S. subscribes to. Today, there isn't an increased or amplified response or reaction. Beijing officials said that they were not pleased, that there could be a severe impact on the U.S.-China relationship, which we know is already at a low. In terms of increased activity around the Taiwan Strait, there is a Chinese aircraft carrier that's operating in the region. There have been Chinese jets flying over the Taiwan Strait, but that happens almost every day. And there is a marine safety patrol, but it's not the Chinese Navy. Whether there could be something in the days or weeks to come is another matter. You'll remember last summer when Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, there were unprecedented military drills that followed. Whether China chooses to take that same route isn't clear. Today, they seem to suggest that almost scoffed at the idea that there had to be this massive military reaction, hinting at this idea that Beijing is actually operating on a different playbook. And what was very important to put some context to the lack of a reaction today was the fact that there was so much happening here diplomatically with the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and Iran shaking hands here today, and that state visit by French President Emmanuel Macron, as well as the president of the European Commission. So very diplomatically busy day here today, and Beijing likely not wanting to distract from its diplomacy with military drills in the region.
And Courtney, I mean, it's also busy where you are. What's the situation like in Taiwan, where officials there braced for some kind of retaliation?
Yeah, and they're watching for exactly what Janice was just pointing out. So any uptick in what is a pretty steady state of naval and air activity in the South China Sea, in the Taiwan Strait, straying often into what is considered Taiwanese air defense identification zone, so that essentially Taiwanese airspace into Taiwanese waters. That's not that uncommon, but what everyone here is watching for is something that is more potentially escalatory and provocative, like what we saw after the Nancy Pelosi visit last summer. So you'll recall at that time, there were days and days of live fire drills. It was this unprecedented size of a military response and a military exercise. The belief here is that the response to this time will be more muted. It won't be to that same level, in part because this meeting occurred in the U.S. and not here in Taiwan. The question is, as Janice was just saying, after these delegations that are visiting Beijing right now, after they leave China, will we see something more potentially provocative or escalatory from the Chinese military, or will we just continue to see this very fiery rhetoric that's been coming out of China for the past several days regarding this meeting? And everyone here is braced for some sort of a response. It's just not really clear exactly what it's going to be yet.
I mean, such high stakes. And while we have you, also, Janice, I wanted to ask about the visit to Beijing by French President Emmanuel Macron. We understand he's been putting pressure on President Xi over the war in Ukraine. Tell us about that meeting.
Well, Macron will have 6 hours of private meetings with Xi Jinping, which is not insignificant. They're having a state dinner tonight. They'll go to Guangzhou tomorrow. He's trying to use the time, he says, to win Xi Jinping over, to use his clout and his influence with Vladimir Putin to try and come to an end, to have the war in Ukraine come to an end. Macron isn't clear on whether he's made much progress, but he says that, quote, we as Europeans would be making a mistake if we allowed Russia to be the only European country talking to China. And what this visit also shows is that there are several countries that are now taking a different approach to their relations with Beijing as compared to the U.S.
Really important reporting from you both, Janice in Beijing, Courtney in Taiwan. Thanks so much.
All right, turning now to a prank gone wrong. Very wrong. A YouTuber known for making jokes on social media rubbed one participant the wrong way, and that led to gunfire. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has more.
So let's run it.
This is 21-year-old Tanner Cook,
Do you know this guy?
a budding comedian who posts videos regularly to his channel Classified Goons.
Welcome back to another video. And in this video, I want to be going up to people and accusing people of flirting and see what type of reactions we get.
He's known for ruffling feathers.
Get the hell out of here.
Why?
Because you're an asshole.
Sometimes to the point security or police are called.
You're going to get arrested for trespassing. I need your legal first and last name, and you will go to jail.
But his latest stunt was met with gunfire. When a shopper Cook was trying to prank got offended and shot him, according to Cook's family.
They were trying to, get a rise out of him or whatever it was, and they got one.
Cook's father, Jeremy, telling our affiliate WRC the shooting nearly took his life.
Went through his stomach and into his liver, and they took his gallbladder. And so it was a major surgery and lots of, drugs to recover.
The Loudoun County Sheriff's Department arresting the shooter, identified as Alan Coley. Charges include aggravated malicious wounding. NBC News has not been able to reach him or his attorney for comment, but at a bond hearing today, local reports show the defense argued it was Cook who harassed the suspect. It's just the latest example of an attempt to go viral, taking a tragic turn. In 2021, Timothy Wilkes was shot and killed after pranking a group of people by approaching them with butcher knives. The man who shot him said he fired in self-defense and was not charged. And just in the past week, 3 UK nationals detained by the Taliban. One of them, YouTuber Miles Routledge, known as Lord Miles.
They include so-called danger tourist Miles Routledge, who returned to the country after being evacuated by British armed forces less than 2 years ago. He's on the right there.
Routledge travels to what he calls the most dangerous places on earth for fun.
I'm in Afghanistan on forged documents going to meet a black market gun runner.
Now, the UK Foreign Office telling Sky News they're trying to secure contact. Back in Virginia, Jeremy Cook admits he's not always proud of his son's pranks, but he says they're all in good fun and they never warrant violent reactions.
Okay, you get offended, don't watch the show, move on, go away, whatever, but you don't have to, because you're offended, you want to go beat somebody up or go run them over with your car or shoot him with your gun.
Miraculously, he says his son is on the mend since that video with a nearly fatal ending. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
And coming up on this hour of Morning News Now, tensions are flaring in the Middle East with a second round of clashes between Israeli police and Palestinians at one of Islam's holiest sites.
Plus, a fresh look at the U.S. economy. A new jobs report due out. Worries of a recession on the increase. That's coming up next.
Welcome back. We're turning overseas now, where a holy site turned to a place of violence. Just last night, tensions between Israeli police and Palestinians hit a boiling point during this sacred week for 3 major religions. NBC News foreign correspondent Raf Sanchez has the story.
A frenzy of violence at one of Jerusalem's holiest sites, threatening to ignite the region. Video showing Israeli riot police storming the Al-Aqsa Mosque, beating people inside with guns and nightsticks. Palestinians responding by shooting fireworks inside the religious compound. Police say they went in after extremists barricaded themselves inside overnight and stockpiled improvised weapons. But Palestinians say they were sleeping in the mosque as part of a Ramadan tradition. They attacked us inside there. All the young people inside are suffering, she says. Around 400 arrested and dozens injured, according to Palestinians, and Israeli troops on high alert.
This is the Lions Gate. It's one of the main entrances to the Al-Aqsa complex, and you can see heavily armed Israeli security forces control the way in and out.
The violence, a grim start to Passover, the major Jewish holiday which will last for the next 8 days, with fears of more to come in the final weeks of Ramadan, the holy month for Muslims. Some of those concerns realized just hours after the raid in Jerusalem. Rockets fired by Palestinian militants from Gaza. Israel responding with airstrikes against the militant group Hamas. Al-Aqsa is the third holiest site in Islam, but sacred also to Jews who call it the Temple Mount. It's the most sensitive spot in Jerusalem and a historic flashpoint. 2 years ago, clashes at the mosque helped ignite an 11-day war in Gaza. And in 2000, a controversial visit by Israeli leader Ariel Sharon sparked 5 years of violence. Now worries the delicate balance at the holy site may be falling permanently apart.
How does it feel for you to see violence like that in this holy place?
It's heartbreaking.
Dr. Mustafa Abu Sway is part of the council that administers the mosque on behalf of the world's Muslims.
Al-Aqsa Mosque is part of the faith of almost 2 billion people. It's very, very important, and it has been a mosque for 1,500 years, and this is very important. Let's not be drawn in the details. The big issue here is that it's part of an occupied city.
Easter, Passover, and Ramadan all arriving at the same time this year, celebrated in a holy city on edge.
Our thanks to Raf Sanchez for that report. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's looking to calm the situation at the mosque, but the Islamic militant group Hamas says they are looking to defend their holy site with force if necessary.
Russian President Vladimir Putin scolded the United States and European Union during a ceremony yesterday in Moscow. It was welcoming new ambassadors and directly addressing the incoming U.S. envoy, Lynn Tracy. Putin blamed Washington for escalating the war in Ukraine. He relayed a similar message to the European Union's new ambassador. NBC News foreign correspondent Matt Bradley has more.
Well, we heard from Vladimir Putin last night. This was a typical kind of diplomatic event where he was accepting the credentials of incoming ambassadors, including Lynn Tracy, the American ambassador to Moscow, who was just confirmed back in January. Now, Putin, in an awkward moment, turned to the U.S. ambassador and started lecturing and scolding her about what started this war. Now, according to Putin, this war started because the U.S. backed, and this has all been denied many, many times by the U.S. and other actors, backed what he called a coup d'etat here in Ukraine back in 2014. He says that the U.S. was, instrumental in fomenting the so-called revolution of dignity. That's what it's called here, that ousted a pro-Russian president. And that's what caused Putin to invade in the eastern part of the country and in the southern Crimean Peninsula. Now, right after these awkward comments that really put the new U.S. ambassador on the spot, Putin dismissed everyone and retired. And that's because he's terrified still of COVID-19. And that's one of the insights we also got yesterday from new information, new testimony from a senior elite member of Putin's force. Now, this is somebody who is very close to Putin. He has since defected to the West, and he came out saying that Putin is paranoid. He's, again, terrified of COVID-19. He's ensconced himself into his own private quarters. He doesn't take advice from almost any of his, except for a small shilla of senior advisors. He doesn't really have access to the internet or even a cell phone, and he drives around on his own private train system. He doesn't even use planes. Well, this just gives us an insight into a president who has launched a disastrous invasion of this country and why this president, Vladimir Putin, might be continuing this invasion despite the fact that it is not going well, to put it mildly.
All right, Matt, thank you.
More international headlines now. A tragedy at a daycare in southern Brazil has left 4 children dead.
Ali Aruzzi joins us now with that and more. Good morning, Ali.
Good morning, guys. That's right. An axe-wielding man went on a rampage at a creche in southern Brazil, killing 4 children between the ages of 4 and 7 and injuring 5 others before turning himself over to the police. Desperate and frenzied parents rushed to the daycare center as police investigated the scene. The motive wasn't immediately clear, but police say the 26-year-old man had a history peppered with drugs and violence. Controversial former Italian Prime Minister and media mogul Silvio Berlusconi has been diagnosed with leukemia, a cancer of the blood cells, according to an informed source close to the matter. The news comes a day after Berlusconi, who's 86 years old, was admitted to the emergency room in a hospital in Milan with breathing problems. And finally, we've all seen the movie Snakes on a Plane. Well, life seems to be imitating art after a South African pilot was forced to make an emergency landing when a 5-foot deadly cobra slithered past him and curled up under his seat. The pilot collected himself, very coolly informed the passengers of what was going on, and proceeded to make an emergency landing. He's been praised for keeping calm and landing the plane and potentially saving everybody's life on board. And guys, check under your desk just in case.
Actually,
no, Allie, no, that's scary.
I don't think I could safely land a plane with that, but impressive feat nonetheless. Wow. Allie Aruzzi, thank you so much.
All right, coming up this morning, a long road to recovery for the South and Midwest after a series of deadly storms. When we come back, we'll be joined by Highway Patrol officials in Missouri to get the latest on the conditions.
Plus, how that recent storm activity could be a warning sign about the impacts of climate change. This is Morning News Now.
Welcome back. We're continuing our coverage of the extreme weather sweeping across the Midwest and the South, as at least 5 people are reported dead after a devastating tornado hit southeastern Missouri Wednesday. The storm, categorized as a high-end EF2 by the National Weather Service, left a path of destruction that tore through several communities in Bollinger County. In a press conference yesterday, the governor of Missouri spoke about the devastation and the state's long road to recovery.
I think when you look at the devastation of this, it's going to be weeks upon months to be able to recover. It's a long journey ahead for the people that live here. The President of the United States called me on the way here. Wanted to make sure that all the people here knew that he was thinking about them. Anything he could do to help, he offered those services. So there's a lot of work to be done after today. But again, right now it's about the families, it's about the loved ones, it's about picking up the pieces.
Sergeant Clark Parrott from the Missouri State Highway Patrol joins us now to discuss the situation there. Thanks so much for joining us, Sergeant. So what's the situation like this morning, and have there been any more reports of injuries?
No, we have not had any more reports of injuries. As the governor said yesterday, and the colonel of the Highway Patrol, we had 5 injured and 5 fatalities as a result of the storm. We're not anticipating any more, just based on the technology and the resources that were used yesterday. A home-by-home search was conducted in the affected area, and everybody that was in the path of the tornado has been accounted for. And so, as the governor said, today we start picking up the pieces and moving forward.
And Sergeant, as you speak, we're taking a look at some aerial views of the destruction. Just so many homes and structures there clearly impacted by this. Have you been able to fully survey the damage yet? Do you guys have a grasp of it?
Well, we're still doing that. We used unmanned aerial vehicles and some drones yesterday. The Highway Patrol, we flew our helicopter throughout the extensive portion of the area just to kind of get a sense of it. Now we're going back out on the ground today. And, today is going to be as important as yesterday. Yesterday was the initial shock, but then today is helping the people pick up the pieces and start to rebuild their lives. As you can see from some of the video, some of these people lost their homes, their possessions, and sadly, 5 people lost their lives. But on the flip side of that, just the spirit of unity that has come into the community, and you can see the volunteers have just poured in from all over Missouri and the Midwest. So that's where we're at today.
So much devastation. Certainly glad people are on their way to help. We do have a soundbite from someone who lives in Glen Allen there in Missouri talking about the destruction. Let's take a listen.
There's a lot of memories that came from that building right there. A lot of work and hard work, sweat and tears. But yeah, emotionally, it's hard to take. Glen Allen will never be the same. There's no doubt about it.
So much heartbreak for so many people. So as families look to start recovering, what are their biggest needs right now?
Well, we are having a meeting here shortly at the high school, at Woodland High School, to organize and process all of the needs that have come in. Yesterday afternoon, all the churches got together, had a prayer vigil, and then they started compiling a list of the needs. We're going to go through that and try to marry that up with all the resources that came in. You would not believe the amount of donations, water, food, clothing, anything you can think of was delivered to the area yesterday. So we're just going to go through that today with those officials and get the help out there where it needs to go.
Well, and there's so many short-term needs, but looking more long-term, Sergeant, it takes so long to recover from one of these things. What do you think that Glen Allen, these other communities, are going to need to actually recover from this in the long term?
Well, you're going to need a lot of help. As the governor said yesterday, a lot of times in these things, there's thresholds for assistance from the state or federal side of it. And obviously a town, it's not as big, Glen Allen is maybe not going to meet those thresholds. So they're going to need a lot of help from a lot of different sources. And, that process starts today.
It certainly does. Hopefully that help actually does come through. Sergeant Clark Parrott, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, sir.
And keeping with severe weather coverage, the recent spattering of tornadoes is a reminder that weather warning systems are urgent and necessary. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander reports on new research to save lives as the traditional path of these storms is changing.
In the fields of southern Tennessee, it's sunny skies now.
Ready? Okay.
But this team, led by atmospheric scientist Karen Kosiba, is preparing for the storm.
Essentially, the goal is to put yourselves right in the path of these storms. Yeah, Perils really is trying to get right in the path of these storms. We're trying to get slightly ahead of them.
Meet the Perils Project.
I can see that from here.
A unit deploying radars, sensors, and scientists in storm after storm, all specifically to study tornadoes in the southeast, which researchers say are growing more frequent and more deadly.
We're trying to understand better these storms, where they're going to produce tornadoes, what the environment looks like before these storms produce tornadoes, so we could better predict tornadoes in the southeast.
Why are these storms so dangerous?
These storms are dangerous for many reasons. First of all, they can occur at off hours, so when people aren't prepared for tornadoes.
Tornadoes like the ones that ravaged parts of Mississippi last month and just days ago tore through Arkansas and Tennessee.
There's a high population density in the southeast, so these storms and these tornadoes have the potential to impact lots of towns or lots of people.
Historically, the Great Plains is considered Tornado Alley, the area with the highest frequency of these storms. But that trend has started to shift. Research shows over the past 4 decades, there's been an increase in the number of tornadoes in the southeast. This was the 5th straight year that's produced a powerful EF4 tornado in the month of March, 4 of those in the southeast. Will this research help create more accurate forecasts?
Yes, we really want to get better warnings out there, better predictability, and really make sure people could take the actions that they need to be in a safe place.
Providing critical seconds that could save countless lives. Blaine Alexander, NBC News, St. Joseph, Tennessee.
Fascinating stuff, Blaine. Thank you. Well, coming up on Morning News Now, from now hiring to not hiring.
New data show the economy may be starting to cool. We'll break down the numbers that are raising new concerns about a possible recession.
Welcome back. New data just out showing some potentially concerning signs about the state of the economy. The March jobs report shows that companies added fewer jobs than expected.
This comes as wage growth is also slowing, which could point to signs that the economy is starting to cool, and questions of a possible recession may be still on the horizon. Caleb Silver is editor-in-chief at Investopedia, and he joins us now to make sense of these numbers. Caleb, good morning. So how do the numbers from March compare to those of February when it comes to jobs added?
Yeah, we're going to get the March non-farm payrolls report tomorrow for the month of March, but already during this week we've gotten the JOLTS report, that's the job openings and labor turnover survey, and private payrolls. Both are showing some signs of slowing. There's still just under 10 million jobs available in the country, so still plenty of jobs out there, but we also saw private payrolls yesterday growing slower than expected, and you're hearing about layoffs in finance, you're hearing about layoffs in tech. Those are starting to bleed through other parts of the economy. That said, we've still added 5.6 million jobs since the beginning of 2022. This is the most aggressive hiring hiring I think we've ever seen in this country.
Yeah, we've had some good jobs reports. We've continued to be surprised by the number of jobs added. So do the fears of a recession, do you think those are still valid?
Yeah, because the economy is slowing in terms of growth. GDP, the way we measure it, is slowing. The Federal Reserve is only predicting about 0.8% growth this year and then only about 1.2% next year. But if it is a recession we're in or going into, it's unlike one we've ever been in before. The unemployment rate below 4%, you rarely see that during a recession. You rarely see this robust hiring across different sectors of the economy. And if you look at manufacturing and consumer spending, we're still kind of hanging in there. So this may be what we call a growth recession in economics.
Why do you think that contrast is that you're describing, those low numbers when it comes to unemployment, and yet we're still seeing this?
There's a supply-demand imbalance in the labor market. You still have industries like leisure and hospitality that have fewer jobs today than they did in 2019. You still have other sectors that are growing. Auto sector is still looking for workers because there's a lot of demand there, but we don't have a lot of demand in other sectors of the economy. So it's an imbalance in the labor market, a supply and demand imbalance, and that's why we have this weirdness in the labor market and in this unemployment report. Tomorrow, we want to see if that unemployment number climbs above 3.6% where it is right now, because the Fed wants it higher than 4%, and the next Fed meeting, guys, is only in 27 days and 6 hours, not that I'm counting.
Do you think they're going to change their tune on these interest rates?
They may slow, they may not hike. If we look at where Fed fund futures are, this is where people are predicting the Fed's going to do next month. There's only about a 50% chance, slightly less, that the Fed will raise interest rates again another 0.25%.
So interesting timing here tomorrow for that jobs report tomorrow. The markets are closed for Good Friday. Do we expect, depending on those numbers, the effects to be seen on Monday then when the markets reopen?
Yeah, I think investors are in this weird place right now where there's some alternatives to stocks right now. You can get money out of the bank, CDs, money markets, the bond market. But right now, investors are just waiting to see what the Fed's next move might be. And this jobs report may make the Fed cool its jets a little bit more at that next meeting in 27 days.
I'll be watching. Caleb Silver, thank you so much.
All right, more financial headlines now. Inflation costs seem to be affecting how much consumers are, of course, spending at retailers, including warehouse giant Costco.
CNBC's Pippa Stevens joins us now with that and other financial headlines. Good morning, Pippa.
Good morning. Well, Costco reporting the first monthly sales drop in nearly 3 years. The warehouse retailer says falling gas prices and the impact of foreign currencies on the dollar impacted results. The company also noting year-over-year inflation for fresh food and various other goods was down from February. Higher food prices helped retailers and grocery stores' sales and profits last year. Industry executives have expressed confidence they can keep charging customers at elevated prices since groceries fall under the category of essential goods. And Google plans to restrict apps that offer loans to individuals from accessing sensitive user data, such as photos, videos, and contact lists. The company is stepping up efforts to combat the rise of predatory behavior from some lenders that harass borrowers to collect debts. The changes to the Google Play Store will take effect on May 31st. And Apple's AirPods could become a standalone product in the future. 9to5Mac and other sites that track the company report Apple has been granted a patent for a redesigned AirPods charging case. The front would have a touchscreen display similar to the Apple Watch. The display would offer media controls and basic apps such as maps, weather, and notifications. Users may also be able to switch between apps using Siri. However, Apple files a lot of patents, and only a few are actually used in real devices. You know, I'm a little bit confused how they would fit the notifications on the AirPods case.
Yeah.
Because it's such a small case.
Yeah.
I know.
It looks like a Tamagotchi kind of. We put a screen on it. Interesting that.
Also, Pip, I got to say, love the yellow. You look dashing.
Yes. Yeah. You know, you gotta look like a peep ahead of Easter.
Agreed.
I forgot my canary yellow blazer this time.
Next time we'll tell you.
All right, Pippa, thanks so much.
And coming up, it's no longer March, but the madness continues.
Yeah, after the break on Morning News Now, why LSU women's basketball star Angel Reese is calling out First Lady Jill Biden over who she's inviting to the White House. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. I think we've all made a few regretful purchases, specifically in our 20s. But for Jennifer Aniston, she says she has a few things to say about hers. The Friends star said she spent her first big check from the show on a vintage car. The $13,000 purchase got her a cream-colored Mercedes-Benz 280 SL. Doesn't seem so awful, right? But not long after she drove the new wheels off the lot, the car actually broke down and, quote, never drove again. The actress said she didn't know that you should actually get the car checked out before you buy it, calling the moment a nice 25-year-old mistake. I will say the car I got, good old Hyundai Elantra, is still kicking today.
Oh, there you go.
Early
My
2000s, used, all that.
Early 2000s, too. My first car was like $400, a 1989 Chevrolet Celebrity.
Ooh.
It was a great purchase.
See?
Young me knew what he was doing.
You knew what you were doing, but any regrets? Any regretful purchases?
I just recently, I bought a Star Trek action figure, 7 of 9, for like $70. I don't regret it. My husband, though, maybe not so happy about it.
Well, you know.
Good purchase for me.
What is it? Permission? Forgiveness, not permission.
There you go. That's my motto. All right, Zinclay, thanks so much. Well, to some sports controversy now. Finally, we're talking about from the basketball court to the court of public opinion here. First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, stirring up some online chatter this week after an invitation to the White House. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has more.
The LSU Lady Tigers crowned the national champs, now taking their victory lap, but it's coming with controversy. It started when First Lady Jill Biden, who went to the finals, broke from tradition, suggesting both teams come to the White House.
We'll have LSU come, but you know what? I'm going to tell Joe, I think Iowa should come too, because they played such a good game.
Social media erupted, with many pointing out the racial makeup of each team. LSU mostly black, Iowa players mostly white.
Does Dr. Jill Biden understand how this looks? She, white America? Yep. The losing side is white America?
All-American and MVP of the tournament, Angel Reese, calling it, quote, a joke on Twitter and speaking out on the I Am Athlete podcast.
I just know if the roles were reversed, it wouldn't be the same. If we were to lose, we would not be getting invited to the White House.
Iowa's head coach preferred to leave LSU in the spotlight, tweeting, a day at the White House should belong solely to the champion, LSU and Coach Mulkey.
It feels like it's about participation trophies, and that's not where this game should be. We don't need to pat everyone on the back for playing a good game.
The First Lady's press secretary forced to backpedal on the invite, saying her comments in Colorado were intended to applaud the historic game and all women athletes. She looks forward to celebrating the LSU Tigers on their championship win at the White House. That championship drawing record ratings, the game becoming the most watched NCAA women's basketball final in TV history with 9.9 million viewers, and the most viewed college basketball game ever on ESPN. With those viewers came more scrutiny, once again zeroing in on Angel Reese, this time for her numerous "you can't see me" hand gestures towards Iowa player Caitlin Clark, some calling the trash-talking gesture classless. Reese defended herself when asked about it right after the game.
I'm too hood, I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing. So this was for the girls that look like me, that's going to speak up on what they believe in.
In fact, Clark used the same gesture just 2 games earlier and defended Reese.
She should never be criticized for what she did. You know, I'm just one that competes, and she competed. So I think everybody knew there was going to be a little trash talk in the entire tournament. It's not just me and Angel. So, you know, I don't think she should be criticized.
Critics saying the reaction showed a double standard.
We all know that there's a white-black issue here, because the fact of the matter is when Caitlin did it, people were celebrating it, and they were talking about nothing but her greatness. But then the second a sister stepped up and threw it back in her face, now you got half the basketball world saying, well, you know what, that's not the classiest thing to do.
Yeah. Regardless, the kind of attention, all of it a clear sign that the women are stepping into center court.
People arguing about officiating, arguing about taunting. These are things casual sports fans care about and can talk about. So it just had all of the right ingredients for a breakout moment for women's basketball, and that's what happened.
Valerie Castro reporting there. Well, despite player Angel Reese's comments, the team's athletic department says they would certainly accept an invitation from the White House. So there's more to come on that story.
For sure.
And that's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.